Injunctions. Many times in a domestic violence situation, people are granted an injunction against another person, and that injunction lists how far the person can come, in contact with the person. They have to be so many yards away. A lot of times those injunctions say that the person for whom the injunction is against cannot come to that person's workplace. We need to make sure that when you're presented with an injunction from one of your employees has gotten an injunction from, say, a family member, that we make sure that people that need to know about that get that information. The worst thing we can do is somebody gives us an injunction and we just open our desk drawer and put it in there. We need to make sure that security, that person's managers, and anybody else in the organization that needs to know about that they're informed about it, that they're informed of the date that, the time period this covers, and if there's any updates to that injunction, that those are handed out as well. Because the last thing you want for your employer is to be held, responsible for something that they had knowledge of but weren't properly informed about the information on the injunction. Next thing we can think about doing is a facility audit. When we look at the facilities that we work in, step outside and do a walk around. Is there lighting appropriately in the parking lots? Is there good lighting at entrances and exits? When we think about violence, sometimes, especially in the random act, somebody's looking and saying, hey, this was a good situation. It was not well lit, somebody was walking out, they were by themselves, and it was just a crime of opportunity. So we need to make sure that we are mitigating those circumstances. In retail places, a lot of times the cash registers are in the front, and the office where the cash is kept is in the front. And you may think, well, why do they do that? And then why do they leave the doors open, when the business is closed, that shows exactly where, the office is where the cash may be kept? The reason why businesses do that is so if anybody tries to get in there and mess with that stuff, they can be seen, by law enforcement, by people going by. So a lot of times we're going to open our doors, metaphorically, so that, we're going to make it harder for people to be able to come in here and do this under the guise of nighttime, because we want things to be well lit. We want people to have full disclosure. So I would advise y'all to get your facility people involved and see if there's any areas that could be improved in terms of your facility to mitigate people lurking or hiding or getting away with a crime of, it was a good opportunity. In terms of security audits, again, we're not in daylight savings time, so now it's getting darker earlier. So we need to, do we have a situation where we advise people to walk out in twos or in a group? If there's a bus stop, do we advise people to go there with a buddy? Do we have security on site? Do visitors have to be announced? Do they sign in, or are they allowed to just roam the building? So we need to think about, how much are we letting people come in to our organizations without really understanding truly why they're there? So we need to think about, do we need to have a better system to where we make sure somebody has a reason to be there and we know what that is, and the person that they're going to see or their business is on someone's calendar, and we know exactly why they're there. The other thing is when employees are exiting our workforces, do we make sure that we obtain all their entry cards, that we get their keys, that we get their garage passes? Most of the time when people leave our organization, they leave and they go on to different organizations, and we're happy for them. Sorry to see them leave, but it's a situation where they're not leaving because of an adverse action against them. But regardless of that, we need to make sure that we're being prudent, and that when people leave our organizations, we are collecting all those entry keys that allow them back into our building as active employees when they're truly not at that point. Okay, let's say that we have some employees that have been with us, and you know, they've been very productive employees, they've been very social employees, and all of a sudden, you know, we start to see a change. Now, let me just preface that by saying, you know, all of us have an off day, one or two. You know, we all have days where we may be running late. We may have, because maybe we got into bad traffic. We all have days when our clothes look a little disheveled because the alarm clock went off late and we just didn't have time to press our clothes. We all have a time where, you know, at work when normally we're social with people and going to lunch with people or gathering, that, you know, we just may need some alone time. Either we're trying to work through some personal situations, or maybe we're studying for an exam. Many of us are in school, or we just need to run some errands, and that's okay. What we're talking about in this situation when we're looking for change is kind of sustained changes. You know, let's say we have somebody that was formerly pretty social, and now they're not social with us anymore. They used to sit with us at lunch, and now they're pretty much a loner. When we'd have some social gatherings, they don't participate that anymore. They just seem to be not only not participating, but really seem to isolate themselves from the group. We may see somebody that their appearance starts to change. They are looking unkept, and not just a day or two, but progressively. You know, where formerly they were very particular or took pride in their appearance, now it's like they don't care. It may be somebody that's annoyed easily. It may be somebody that seems constantly distracted. May seem somebody that personal calls are increasing. It may, in terms of productivity, we're seeing changes in quantity, where before they were a high producer, now they're not producing near as much as they used to, and there doesn't seem to be any reason in the workplace for that to have changed. It may be somebody that, you know, had good or very good quality, and now that quality is suffering. Somebody that was always good at meeting deadlines and getting their work done. Now the timeliness in completing those tasks are in question. They always seem to be running behind. They always seem to be missing deadlines. They're always asking for extensions of deadlines. They may have a change in priorities. They may be spending a lot of time on unimportant tasks instead of things that are really important and germane to their position. And again, it may be somebody that's starting to complain a lot. You know, they just feel like, you know, everybody's against them. They feel like they're getting all the work, that it's not fair, that things aren't right. And this is just a complete change from the way a person normally acts. Could be that somebody is seemingly depressed or talk about being down, somebody that all of a sudden seems sad all the time. Now, again, any of these things, any of these observances doesn't mean that somebody's going to erupt in violence. Please don't misunderstand me. But all I'm saying is this is a profile of somebody where we're seeing observable changes, we're seeing patterns of changes, and that things that we may need to be aware of and take an interest in. And again, we're not talking about a single incident or a single day. We're looking for patterns.